Today is August 15th. The Pirates' 10-game losing streak has us all asking questions. Let's get it all out. We're talking Derek Shelton, a couple player updates, and more. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins guys, thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I'm joined again by my brother Jake. What's up, Jake?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
It's going all right. 10 straight losses, which ties the longest losing streak of the 2023 and the 2021 Pirates. It's one more than the longest in 2022. This is supposed to be a better team, Jake. Now, saying that it's supposed to be a better team, I understand. It's just a losing streak. It doesn't mean that a team's better than another team, but whatever. Last year, they had a 7-game winning streak. This year, we've only had 6 in mid-July. So we're going to go all in on that losing streak now that Jake is back. I'm sure you're chomping at the bit. It's been 3 shows now without Jake. Welcome back, Jake.
Good to be back. A lot of traveling right there, wedding went well, all that good stuff. I've been thinking about this episode for a little bit, and I thought about, what if I did this show and kind of like made it as exciting it is to watch a Pirates game right now.
Oh,
so from, if I wanted to do that, it'd probably just look like this. And
yeah. Hold on. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Just drop the ball.
Yeah, I'd laugh, but that's too exciting. Listen, it's been awful to watch. Like, it's been painful to watch at times. And like, golly, like, I don't even know what to. It's a combination of a lot of things, in my opinion. I think there's players who are better than they're playing. So there's players not executing. There's coaches that aren't putting their players in the situations to succeed, and all of it coming together is just it's just been terrible to watch. I got home yesterday, so got home for Wednesday's night's game. Got home from work. Was like, I got off early. It's a day game. I'm ready to watch some Pirates baseball. 9-game losing streak. We got Mitch Keller on the mound. There's no way he's going to let us get to 10. No, 3-0. It just
right
started.
Away.
By the way, that home run, that home run's a home run in 13 ballparks.
Yeah.
Still.
So I turned the game on, like literally just before that pitch. And I was like, 2 guys, I have to go back to game day and look and see how the guys got on. So this is going to be a fun one, guys. This might be, this is one of those days where you get a day off of watching the Pirates, right? But if you're somebody who is dialed in, and I imagine if you're listening to this show, or especially if you're on live on YouTube right now, you're probably somebody who loves baseball, loves the Pirates. You're frustrated, but like you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And if you are, you had the fan forum today. NS9, I imagine, is probably wrapping their show up right now. And us, like, you've got enough content. You've got basically a Pirates game to watch. But instead of listening to Greg Brown complain about the Pirates, you have to listen to us do it. Anyway, we do have some things to get into. Hey, right before we get started, I've got a new little toy I'm messing around with here. So I see there's, at least some people in the chat right now. We are going to bring up a new thing called a poll. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit. We're going to do a few we're going to do a few little quick hits here. But in the meantime, just type into the chat, no, now, September, October. What we're talking about here is, would you fire Derek Shelton? If so, when would you do it? Just put the answers in the chat. Match that word exactly. Basically, what we're saying is, no, I wouldn't fire him. I'd fire him right now. Give him till September starts, or wait till season's over in October. So just throw that in the chat, and we'll start getting an idea of what you guys are thinking right now about Derek Shelton and his job security and whatnot. So Ryan in the chat here says Jake was channeling his inner O'Neal Cruz and just missing everything. So while you were going on your rant there, I looked it up, and since you were on the show last, it's August. We're 1-11. It's kind of your fault.
Dang it.
This is a little bit maybe on you. So that's good omen for tomorrow night, right?
Yes.
We said something positive.
Tomorrow.
Huh? Hey,
so
guys.
We can turn this around.
Look at us. We managed to say something positive. So
everybody in our chat would have guessed that.
Yeah. And very true here from Mike. It was a very Pirates thing that Martin Perez was the guy. I'm sorry. Oh, let me see this. That got hurt and underperformed, that we spent a little money, was shipped to another team, and then pitched great against us. That's exactly it.
To be fair, he's pitched great against the 3 teams he's pitched for them. He's got like a 1.86 ERA in San Diego.
Might be worse. It might be worse.
Well, no, it is worse, but
yeah,
I don't know.
All right, so we've got a few things to cover here, little quick hits here. Let's get through these. Christian Yelich, season-ending back surgery. He's done for the year. Too bad this doesn't impact the Pirates. Oh, boy.
I'm bummed out. Yeah. Yeah.
MLB once again considering rules to keep the starting pitcher in games longer. They're talking about it again, Jake. We've talked about a couple of these, but there's a new one on here. One of the options is that it will require a starting pitcher to complete 6 innings before being removed from the game. Just they have to, right? With this exception. Okay? The exceptions are if a pitcher gets to 100 pitches before the 6th, which is almost every starting pitcher anymore.
Right.
Or he allows 4+ runs, which is the blowout exception. Or he suffers an injury. However, if he suffers an injury, it requires an IL stint. So, like, he's going to have to miss a few starts if you want to take him out because of an injury. It's not like you can take guys out for an injury that's like, yeah, but he's going to be fine in a couple of days.
Right.
You know what I mean?
A blister.
A hangnail. I mean, for pitchers, those things are devastating.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's like, well, yeah, but he's going to have to go on the IL or he's going to have to pitch through it. Don't worry, though. If he's got a blister or a hangnail, it's likely he gives up the 4 runs and you can get him out of there anyway.
Right.
So, I don't know, man. Kind of interesting when you think of it that way.
Works.
Did it work? Did it pop? Hey, it did. All right. It's weird. It's not showing on one. Yeah, okay, wait. It's showing there. That's right. Yeah, get those votes in. I'm curious to know what we think about that. All right, so Jared, wait, I had a little bit more there, huh? The other options include a 5-batter minimum for relievers instead of a 3-batter minimum, which would just make you not want to get to your bullpen as much. You know what I mean? It would deter you from saying like, well, you know what I mean? I don't know. Lowering the sizes of pitching staffs. That's asking for more injuries as well. And the double hook DH that we talked about on here before, where basically once you get the starter out, then the DH has to come out too. Which
So I'm just tired of MLB like dictating how coaches coach. Like,
are you?
I'm all for the starting pitchers going deeper.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but I don't want a rule that tells me I have to do it. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't like those types of rules. It's like let coaches, they're hardly being able to coach at this point. I don't know. It's weird. The double hook DH thing is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Me, I actually like it. So
I think the DH needs to be separated from the pitcher, and the DH just needs to be a position.
That's a good point too. I agree with that as well. So I guess you're right. I would contradict myself if I went to that, because I believe the DH should be a position. Which why does that matter, right? That matters because if I want to, I should be able to move. If I can move a second baseman to shortstop in the middle of the game and bring in somebody else to play second base, then I really replace the shortstop. I move the second baseman to short, and the new guy is playing second. I should be able to do that with the DH as well. If Andrew McCutchen's at DH and I want to pinch hit, I'm trying to think, this is probably like a crazy example here.
The easiest one.
I want to pinch hit.
The easiest example is if you got Joey Bart and Grandal in the lineup.
Yeah.
Bart's DHing, Grandal's catching. You want to hit for Grandal. You hit McCutchen for Grandal. McCutchen becomes your DH, and Bart can go to catch.
Yeah, so then they just switch positions, and the DH is a position. Yes, that's it. That's a very good example. I think, guys, for the poll, I think it has to be only the word. I don't think that you can do other things after that. I can test that by saying message now. Did that show up? It did not. So you will need to say October, and then you can send the next message. And the options won't show up until the votes come in. Just to put that out there. All right. Jared Jones with the second rehab start this week, 3 1/3 innings, 4 earned runs, a walk, and 3 Ks. While he's getting healthy, I'm a little concerned about the results. That's 2 starts, 6 innings, 8 hits, 7 runs, 6 of them earned, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Not ideal.
Yeah, but we all kind of know how rehab stints go.
Okay.
It's not results based. How do you feel?
Okay. So far, not worried.
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
All right. Here's a good one. I alluded to this a little bit. Greg Brown and Matt Capps were laying it on O'Neal Cruz pretty thick during the broadcast this week. I don't know if you guys caught this. And I debated whether I was going to bring it up or not. But I figured, what better day than a day that we're kind of bringing a little bit of heat here. We know that Cruz's defense has been bad, clearly, right? We understand that. Greg Brown's taken every opportunity to remind us of that, and I think that doesn't need to happen. Ortiz makes the throw to second base, and Cruz was unable to handle the throw. It's Cruz's error. You have to catch that ball. Just get the one out. Don't worry about it. However, Greg Brown passed off Ortiz's throw as perfect. And of course, Matt Capps is going to stick up for Ortiz because he's a pitcher. But even Matt Capps, after Greg Brown really hammered down on a perfect throw to second, Matt Capps was like, yeah, I mean, throw was a little high. It's like, if you threw it high to O'Neal Cruz, that's a bad throw, actually. It's actually a bad throw. But it is O'Neal Cruz there, so I'm not even going to give him a bad throw. He threw it like 90. And it wasn't to his chest. He had to reach up for it. O'Neal Cruz has to catch that ball. This is not me giving him a pass. But that was not a perfect throw, by all means. I think when they went to the dugout, they both looked at each other and were like, my bad. No, it's my bad. No, it's my bad. I got to catch that. Seriously, though, I've made a bad throw. You know what I'm saying? That's one of those situations.
Yeah.
And he's just doubling down and going hard on it. And the problem that I had with that was Bay made a couple nice plays, and Greg Brown was drooling over it. And I'm like, hey, if we're going to bring up how they've done all season when they make a bad play, I don't see a problem with saying that's a really fantastic play from a guy who's been terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really surprised he caught that ball because he's been awful. Like, if you're going to do that for one guy, why aren't you doing it for another guy? And it's just like, it's what have you done for me in the last 30 seconds? Ke'Bryan Hayes makes a couple nice plays at third, and he talks about how good Ke'Bryan Hayes has been this year on defense and how he hasn't taken the poor plate appearance onto the field with him. And I'm like, he's not been that great. I mean, he's, by all means, he's an average fielder. But Nick Gonzalez has one more outs above average than Ke'Bryan Hayes does. Now you're thinking, this is Ke'Bryan Hayes, a guy who had like 20-some defensive runs saved last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, those kind of stats are Ke'Bryan Hayes' things. And it's like, yeah, he's not done that good. He's not been Ke'Bryan Hayes this year.
Yeah. I mean, he still leads the National League third baseman in fielding percentage, but
does he really? Because he's made several errors too.
He's got,
well, they don't mark errors anymore, but anyway,
number 1, 981.
So here's the thing. The point is he hasn't been fantastic on the field this year, but he did something good. So you might as well. So if somebody does something bad, even if they've been really good, you might as well pile it on and say how terrible they've been. That just doesn't seem like it doesn't seem good. I expect better. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I expect better, especially when you got Ji-Hwan Bae, who's painful to watch in the outfield. He does make 2 nice plays that are very surprising. And he goes on to say, like, he's just drooling. And I'm like, it's fine. If you're gonna share the narrative, right, for one guy, go ahead and share it for everyone. Let's go ahead and talk about everyone and how they've been doing. Anyway, these are quick hits. Let's move on. I had to, because like Greg Brown, like, he's our guy. You know, we actually like him. I just can't. I just can't. Brian De La Cruz has 9 hits since coming over to the Pirates. This is the last one here, and we're going to get into the good stuff. 9 hits since coming to the Pirates, all of them singles, Jake. 2 of them to the pool side. He's just like poking right now, poking to right field, trying not to strike out, which is not working because he's also striking out a ton. He's been as bad as you would have thought if you hated this trade. If you hated this trade, you're just like, I was so right about this. Not even a chance to show off the strong arm that we've been hearing about. As a matter of fact, there have been 2 base hits this past week that were just singles that he made errors and put the guy on second. So like, you can't throw anybody out if you can't catch the ball, right?
Right.
He's a streaky player, we've heard. Maybe he runs into a hot streak and this team can run off some games thanks to him. But these are the types of things that kind of feed into everything else that I think that we're gonna get into. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Seth, yeah, just send the word. Just send the word now. All right. We'll let that thing cook for a little bit. Let's get into this, Jake. 10 straight games. 2 games over 500 when this thing started. And you were possibly pushing for a wild card spot. You went out and you bought, as you said, when we got this thing rolling, have quickly buried themselves. I mean, given the fact that how many teams you have to pass up. And we say this like, well, mathematically they're not out yet. No, they're not mathematically out yet. But I wonder if you were able to, and I'm not able to, if you were able to look at the schedules for all of the teams that they have to pass up, and if you say, all right, I need these 2 teams, I got to pass them up. If they lose enough games and we win enough games to actually leapfrog them, my question is, how many of those games that they lost we're against other teams that are in between us that'll actually, we leapfrog, let's say the Braves, but in the meantime, the Mets are up there. Oh, okay. Well, then how about the Mets? Well, if we bury the Mets now and we have to pass them up, all of a sudden the Cardinals are better. Okay, let's do the Cardinals. Well, that's the Reds. Okay, so let's go back to the drawing board. Let's erase the Braves. Let's let them go in. Now, who else? Well, you've got the two hot teams. You're not going to get there. So in order to get past all of those teams, I wonder how many of them actually can't lose enough games to leapfrog them without creating another team that's in between us to just be still ahead of us. You know what I mean? Like, they have to get swept by the Cardinals in order for us to pass them up. But the Cardinals are ahead of us. They need to lose 3 games. Well, we don't do ties in baseball, therefore both teams can't lose.
That's one of them endless circles, right? Doesn't matter what happens, it's not good for us.
Is that your phone?
Yeah, it's on vibrate.
Yeah. We just found that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the same place I keep it every week. You usually don't hear it. My bad.
Yeah, it's like I said, I haven't done the math. I don't know if that math checks out, if that is the case, or if there is a path. But I mean, you've got 10 straight. You probably don't have to win 10 straight, right, to get back in the picture. But it feels like you'd have to get pretty close to it. You'd have to at least run off 6 or 8 or something at some point, or maybe a couple different ones at 5 to 8 games.
I mean,
or something like that.
We're getting close to the point where we got to make like what year was that? I forget what year it was now, 2012 or something like that. The Rockies run, where they won like 27 straight games.
Yeah. Well, the Cleveland had the big long actual winning streak, but what year was that?
I can't remember.
It wasn't that many games.
They were like 27-3 in their last 30 games. It was something.
They made
insane.
it to the World Series, right?
Yeah. They swept their way to the World Series and then got swept in the World Series by the Red Sox.
Yeah, here. Let's put it up here. So here's the World Series season. So if we go back to this
season,
was it? 2007.
7.
Clint Hurdle at the helm. So we got to go here. And their September was 20-8. So you gotta put like a 20-8 run at the end of the season. And here's their, I'm not going to count all those. It's got to be their longest streak of the season, right? No. Oh wait, that's losing. Yes. So it was an 11-game winning streak at the end. At the end there, a 20-8 month. Even with that's actually funny. Even with a 3-game losing streak in the middle there, which a lot of people probably thought, well, that did us in. We're done. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, there you go. It's a 2007 Rockies run that we got to go on. So, I mean, maybe, right? This team is not, it's not that team. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have this team doing something like that.
No.
All right. So why, Jake? Because I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of effort here. What are you laughing at?
It's just the way you said, but why?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of criticism, right? Oh, this team is just giving up. This team is I mean, you even said like the games are boring. It's a lack of effort. Do you feel like it's been that? I mean, I would say that Wednesday's game had more of that vibe than maybe any other game.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the last taste of my mouth, right? So that's kind of what comes out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we all do. But I mean, what is it? Seven of our last 10 losses or something like that have been by one run. I don't know the numbers exactly.
7 of our last 12.
So, I mean, like, it's the execution part, right? It's not just hitting. It's been hitting and pitching. Not execute, like some of these runs, like 7-6 or 5-4, like things that should be able to win a game with scoring that many runs. It's the pitching that's letting us down. It's been both.
Well,
for sure,
but more so. I mean, we're scoring over 4 runs. We're scoring over 4 runs a game. That's the magic number. You score over 4 runs a game, you're supposed to win more games than you lose. Mm-hmm. And that's been proven out how many times. I've talked about this, I think, since we've started this podcast. Mm-hmm. I think I've talked about that. So I feel like the effort has been there. I feel like there are some things offensively that this team has done. I think that we've actually created more problems. We talked about the O'Neal Cruz play when he went out into left field. Like, that wasn't a lack of effort. That was actually a lack of, like, having your head on. You were trying so hard that you forgot to be smart. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I feel like there's an effort there, but a lot of times, like, if you don't have your head on right, because you're trying, you're over trying. Like, I don't want to say that trying too hard is a good thing, because that's why it's not. You can't do that. What you're doing is you're trying so hard you're forgetting logic, right? So you're making base running errors, like, I can get to second on this play. Like, bro, you could never get to second on that play. Like, and I understand the effort, like, you really want to get to second, but you can't do that. You have to understand that there's a balance. And that's one of the things that I think is being missed in certain situations. Well, that's not giving up. That's playing bad baseball, right? But that's not giving up. That's not a lack of effort. And so I feel like, I mean, if you look at I looked at the box scores at some point, and I don't know if I wrote this down or not. I can look through a couple pages here while I rant about it, but I feel like I looked it up on how many games in a row this team was able to score in the last inning of the game. I didn't write it down. Like, whether that was the 9th or the 10th, like, they're scoring a run, but you're 2 runs down. And they're not able to get to that second run. And the thing is the second run that they were ahead by was just given up by the bullpen the inning before that, which made it impossible, right? And so when you start getting into that, it's like, yeah, well, sure, then just point it to the bullpen. But it's got to be like, even if the bullpen is going to blow you game or they're going to give up the runs, they're going to blow games, right? That's going to happen. In baseball, that happens. What I say a couple weeks ago, hitters get paid too, right? So Jackson Merrill's going to hit a 2-run homer. But on the offensive side, like, yes, I know you've already scored 8 runs or 7 runs in that case. You need 2 more. And you got to figure out a way to get 2 more, right? The Padres just did. They just figured out a way to get 2 more. You have to figure that out too. This team is starting to show that there's talent on the roster, but they're not getting it all the way there. And they're not ready to make that jump. They're not a postseason team because they can't win games like that. You have to be able to back up. Now, I understand when it happens like 4 out of 5 nights in a row, you're not going to win all those games. 6 1-run games. It's 6 of the last 11 losses is what the number is. I think if you go back, it's like 7 of 13. But like, if you just stick to the last 11 losses, which goes into the last game of July, right? Because it was a 5-4 loss. If you go into that, it's 6 of the last 11 games are 1-loss games. If you win just 3 of those 6, we're having a different discussion.
Yeah.
It's the panic button instead of we're done here. You know what I mean? Yeah. And maybe Wednesday's game is different, because if they were kind of like, I'm defeated now, then they wouldn't have been had you just picked up 3 of those. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it makes a big difference. you would be 2 games under 500. You'd be above the Cubs, but that's it. Like the Reds would still have passed you up. The Cardinals are still there. The Giants are still there. All those teams, and you'd be 5 games out. 5 games out on August 14th, 15th. I looked at the last game they played. When you look at that and you say, well, 5 games out, like, can you make up 2 games by the end of the month? Sure. I can make up 2 games, maybe, you know what I mean, in the race in a half a month. And if you can, then you're back to what I talked about a couple weeks ago, where the Marlins were 3 games out at the end of August last year, and they made it. So, you know what I mean? If you can get within 3 by the end of the month, I mean, this team can't do that now.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's way too big of a jump.
And I don't know, like, I know that we don't play the 2 hot teams anymore. We're done playing them.
Yeah.
So
they'll probably get cold now.
I don't know that we play the right people to get it. Being hot would even make a difference.
It's going to fall short, right?
Yeah.
At this point, you're trying to get back to 500. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about where do we go from here. So let's skip that. Let's give him a pass, Jake. Let's see if we can give him a pass. Mutu's in here. Good evening, Mutu. Sherrod brings up the fan base's highest point was July 31st against the Astros in the second inning, up 4-0. Fall from grace since. Probably true. You're flying high. You'd already had 3 straight wins. You're going into that game. You've got a 4-run lead. And then from that point on, it has been rough.
Yep.
1 win from that point on. We're halfway through August. All right, so let's see if we can give him a pass, Jake, because like I just said, like the effort's there, right? And so you've got a 1-run loss. You know, if you just get 3 of those, you know what I'm saying? They're all 1 runs. Even the ones that aren't, it's like, yeah, but if it wasn't for Holderman and Bednar falling apart, like if you could have just got something there, or let's take back the game where Cruz makes a bunch of errors, or you know what I'm saying? Like all of those are things where you could say like, yeah, I get it, but not 10 times.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what I said. Just get 3 of those. I'll give you a pass on the other 3. You're running into hot teams. You're you know what I'm saying? You got a scuffling guy in the bullpen. Like, I'll give you a pass if you just come up with 3 of those games. You lose 10 in a row, it's kind of all bets are off, man.
Yeah. No passes given out.
No.
You're in detention.
Mutu says, I was in the stadium last Sunday, which started the streak, so I fear this is all my fault. You weren't the only one in the stadium, and you didn't pitch in the 9th. So
and you missed the beginning of this episode where Josh put the blame on me.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Because this is it's a good omen for tomorrow night. Skeens is on the mound, Jake's back on the pod. I think we're gonna be okay tomorrow. I think the streak ends. I hope. I hope. Yeah, Jake, I mean, is there any room for a pass on any of these, like I said, these close games, we were 1 play away? Or are you in agreement with me? Like your stance is saying like, no, 10 straight's 10 straight.
Yeah. I mean, 10 straight's 10 straight. The reason that I can't give the pass is because you didn't pull out any of those, whether the effort was there or not. Like right. Some of those have to go our way. It's not about a break. It's about, or a pass. It's about getting the job done. Like there's no excuse at this point in the season to not get the job done.
Right. Right. Collapse. Is it unlucky? I mean, because like we're actually hinting around a little bit at it being unlucky. At you know what I'm saying? But like you said, like you've got to work your way on the other side of that. It's kind of like an umpire's bad call, right? I always say you didn't lose because the ump made a bad call. You lost because you were in the situation to allow the ump to make a bad call. Like if you weren't second and third with 2 outs in the ninth and that guy scores, like if maybe you just weren't second and third, or if you had a 4-run lead, like there are a lot of things that you can do to avoid what has happened. Like 1-run games, like I just said, score 2 runs in the ninth, like that you have the ability. Everybody gets all 27 outs. And then in this case, we've had a couple of games where we had a few extra outs. So mid-August, 10 straight losses. It feels like a collapse to me. It feels like, and it's not one of those like we totally fell apart, but it's 10. And I have a hard time. I have a hard time with not saying it is a collapse.
Yeah, and it's timing too.
Yeah.
You know, the Yankees went through a stretch it wasn't 10 straight, but it was a bad stretch.
Yeah.
Bad for like 2 weeks. And gets brushed under the rug because they all of a sudden are right back on top of the American League with the best record. So like you combine the fact that this happens in August with the fact that we were only 2 games over 500 when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now gets turned into a collapse.
Yeah. And because there's the thing, right? Oh, August games aren't any more important than May games. No, but losing streaks are more important in August than they are because of the amount of games that you have left to make up for it. You can't make up for it in August, where there's enough games that you can make up for it if it happens in May. It's not that the games are more important. It's not that the wins and losses carry any more weight. It's how far you're behind and how many games are left to make up.
We have what, like 42? 42 games? Because I think
because I said 45 on Sunday. So yeah, with 3 games, probably 42 games. But that's just not. So does, you know what I mean, all those other teams. And it's like I said, if you were 7.5 games out, but there was the next team was the team in the spot, I'd entertain it. Sure, something crazy could happen. There's just so many things that would have to happen. So many teams would have to lose that there'd be no teams winning in order to get it. It's like, well, National League teams can lose only to American League teams, but every single game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And teams
it's
like
never going to happen.
Yeah, and teams like the Marlins and the Rockies have to beat the teams that are ahead of you because their wins won't hurt you. Stuff like that. I don't know. Anyway, I mean it does. It makes it hard. And you just brought it up a little bit. I think you kind of mistaked into it when you said the word break.
Yeah.
Derek Shelton said they need a ball to drop. They need a little luck. They need a break here and there. Jackson Merrill makes the diving catch in the gap. If that ball lands, the game's different.
Yeah.
It didn't. And you know what I mean? So like, I get that. In that game, in that scenario, in a 2-1 baseball game, you're right. That could have went either way. But once again, it's 10 straight. For a minute, he said, we haven't been playing bad baseball. We're just unlucky. Well, that changed Wednesday. He said, we've played 3.5 months of good baseball, which I'd question if all 3.5 were good. And then a half a month of bad baseball. Or he said, bad baseball the last 10 days. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, so now you're agreeing this is bad baseball. Where before, you were after 8 straight losses, you were like, oh, we're not really playing that bad. You know what I mean? It's not bad baseball. No, I mean, it's just like, it's bad baseball. But I think they've kind of been playing bad baseball for a while. Like I would even argue that they've played bad baseball for most of the season. Like it's the little things, right? And whether you're a fan of bunting or not, it's part of baseball. It has been for a long time. They're not able to do it. When there's runners in scoring position, they cannot cash them in. Seems that way. It's been that way the entire year, right? And you can look at the different ways. I mean, except for that first week. And so you can look at all the different things that are like baseball things, right? Getting out of a jam, I'm trying to think of like some of the things that are like, these things win games. Inherited runners for relievers. They can't score. That's just like a good brand of baseball. You bring in a reliever. It was great. You got him out of the, you know what I'm saying? But the big one for me is like runners in scoring position, moving runners up, being smart on the bases, which sometimes doesn't necessarily mean stealing a bunch of bases, but you could argue that this team really hasn't, like, they've won the games that they've won because they have talented players, whether they're having a good season or not. And they really haven't played like, I mean, you have a shortstop who has over 20 errors, like how many more things? We don't have a corner outfielder other than Brian Reynolds. When's the last corner outfielder we had on this team? Like a real one,
right?
That, like, not Fowler, not Kai Tom or Anthony Alford. Like who's the last real guy? You know what I mean? Is it Marte? Other than Reynolds. I'd like to say Swinsky, but you can't. There's not enough there.
Yeah.
There's just not enough. You can't call him that
he
yet.
He played a chunk of center field that year. The year he had that was really good.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that I'm like, I'm just not convinced that those sort of things are actually a good brand of baseball. That's all.
Right.
That's all. For those of you,
you also have coaching decisions in there that haven't been great too.
Here we go. Now we're going to get into
certain.
For those of you, hang on one second.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
For those of you who just came in, just answer with either no, now, September, October. Would you fire Derek Shelton at the? Is it no, not at all, right now? When September starts, so give him till September or give him the rest of the year till October, and just put in that word or it won't work. But let's see if there's any other thoughts here, because right now, according to the chat, not till the end of the year. I'll be interested to know how this turns out, but just it's just one word, type it in, all that good stuff. Yes, you put up Jose Tabata, but go back to your point there. I want to make sure we get that.
Yeah, I mean, so bad baseball also falls on the coaching. And it's putting your players in the right position to succeed, and I just don't feel like that's happening. I've seen pinch hits that's like, dude, you know that this hitter can't hit this. I can't think of the exact scenario, right? So this hitter can't hit against righties. And you put him in the pinch hit against a lefty who's already faced the 3-batter minimum. They're just going to switch him out. It's a lot of times it's Joe. They'll take Tellez out, who doesn't really hit lefties all that bad.
Well, not recently.
Put Joe in. Put Joe in, who rakes lefties. I get
not
it,
recently,
but not recently. Recently, he don't rake anything. He might rake the dirt or something. I don't know, but
I don't know. But his wife's going to be upset.
It's in high school.
He's going to be his wife's going to be upset this fall when your yard is still full of all the leaves that fell because he can't even rake those.
Right.
Took a long time to get that joke out. Bad delivery.
Dynamite drop in, Monty. But no, like you're basically sending Connor Joe up there to hit against a righty.
Yeah.
Because the pitching change is going to get made.
I hate when it happens.
I would take my chances with Tellez.
I hate when it happens in the 6th inning too, because now Joe comes up against a righty late in the game, and it's like, we could have had Tellez here, who's actually been coming through in those scenarios. But yes, so I mean, with that said, let's get into the whole meat and potatoes of this whole thing, and that's Derek Shelton. I mean, he's making. I don't know if he's, like I said, I don't know if he's necessarily making excuses. I'm in between something of saying, like, we haven't been playing bad baseball. Like, there's a little bit of me, and you know me, I'm always going to try to say, all right, I heard what I heard. I didn't like it. Now let me give benefit of the doubt and see if it changes my outlook. Give him benefit of the doubt. He doesn't want to throw his players under the bus. Okay, that's fine. There's been a lot of talk on a lot of, like, I listened to Ethan on Locked On. Gary and Jim brought it up on the fan forum today. We caught a little bit of NS9 before we had to start getting things ready here. And every one of those things, we heard the word accountability. And you know what I'm saying? So like, there is like a thing where you don't want to throw your guys under the bus, but then there is also a piece where you're saying like, okay, but how do we know? You know what I mean? Like, are these guys being held accountable? Is it just, oh, you're going to be fine. You're doing good. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that I can tell you, Jake, about the way that you talk to people, right? So for those of you who have kids and you think about this sort of thing, right? And really this goes to anyone. But this dude, Bob Goff, I heard him say this one time and I was like, yeah, I'm into that. And he said, talk to people the way that you would want them to be. So like just tonight, like we have our 4-year-old does not share with our 2-year-old. Right. And I'll say, you're going to be so good at sharing. Like it's a way of saying like, you're not good right now, but instead of just saying you're terrible at sharing, you need to fix it. You would say things like, you're going to be good at this. Like you're going to get this, or, you're whatever. But like, I don't really know if that's what we're doing eventually on a baseball field. We can't just play that kind of game. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm saying that to say like, can I get there? No, not really. Like at some point you have to say, we have to execute. And we've heard him say that. We've heard him say that before. And there's been like, he does kind of say like, well, I could have put in a different pitcher there, but instead he said he has to execute that pitch. Okay. So you throw him under the bus when it's your bad, but when they're actually playing bad, you stick up for him. So like, I don't really understand what we're talking about here. And we got a lot of messages coming in. We've got some votes coming in.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about him saying stuff like that. It's almost like, how do I keep my job?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I say? What can I say that will protect my seat? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Bucko Mike says, I'd rather have Uncle Jake over Joe to hit a righty. Jim says, G1 Bay, Jared Triolo, Yasmani Grandal being on the 26-man roster shows there's no accountability. I'll even give you and this is, trust me, I'm not disagreeing with you, Jim, but like, I'll even give you the Yasmani Grandal thing that if it's like, well, if the guy above you is, whatever it is saying like, we signed him, he's going to stay there. We don't want to move somebody up. But like the other two, like, no, you're right. There's just I guess you can say like, well, if Palacios wasn't hurt, Bay wouldn't be here. If Nick Gonzalez wasn't hurt, Bay wouldn't be here. Maybe Triolo wouldn't be here. If both of them were healthy, Triolo wouldn't be here. Your alternative to Bay right now is Jack Swinski, who's also not getting it done. And like I said, I'll always put the condition out there. I like him. I think he can do well. But it's
just a lost season for him.
Yeah. Oh, look, Katie's listening. Tell people who they're becoming. I can always rely on Katie to correct the things that I say when I misquote something. Tell the people who they're becoming. It's great, right? But at some point in baseball, like at your job, you know what I'm saying? If I'm not doing my job, Jake, then my boss is going to put me on a performance plan or whatever. And he's going to say, all right, you've got, a period of time that we need to see improvement or we're going to move on. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that maybe needs to happen at some point. And I don't mean with players at this point either. We're talking Sherrington to Shelton. Okay. We're setting a goal here and you're the guy. Like so Gary said this on the fan forum today and it just couldn't be truer. If you're Sherrington and you believe that the players that you have acquired and developed and whatever, the players that are on that roster, that's your job to build that 26-man roster. If you believe that team is good enough to win, then you have to believe that the manager that you've hired to do the job is not getting it done. Or the hitting coach if you just want to go one place. But like I said, right now we're talking about pitching blowing games too. So, and I believe that, Marine's done more good than Haynes, certainly. Obviously, if you get rid of Shelton, you get rid of the whole thing.
Right.
But like, you either believe in the roster and then it's on the coach, or you don't believe in the roster, so you give the coach a pass. So like, you're either going to raise your hand or you're going to sign the papers. Like, it's one or the other. And I commented on there too. I guess there is one other scenario. You don't believe in the roster, but you don't want us to know, so you fire the coach as if you do believe in the roster. That's the other option in that scenario.
Yeah. I mean, it also, when you're talking about accountability, you have to have self-accountability too. And that's on Sherrington. Sherrington's got to own up. If he thinks somebody's not getting a job done, you're allowed to say, you know what? Maybe this isn't what I thought it was going to turn out to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just constantly stick up for somebody who's not getting the job done just because you want to feel like you made a right call. You're allowed to make a mistake. It happens.
You're not allowed to tell anybody,
hiring, right? If hiring Derek Shelton was a mistake, then just come out and say, "Hey, this one didn't work. Let's try to find the next one."
There's even
and I'm not saying hiring Shelton was a mistake,
right?
Because I don't think he's a horrific manager. I just don't know that he's the right manager for us right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams, you do that thing where it's like, well, we hired this guy, we went through our rebuild, now we need to bring in somebody else. Now, there's different scenarios, whether it's, hey, this guy who's been around for 4 losing seasons now, so 5 losing seasons now, it's time to get a different face. It's time to change a little bit of the culture. It's time to make those players a little bit uncomfortable, where they feel like they need to impress a new boss. You know what I'm saying? Kind of a deal like that, where sometimes a little bit of a shakeup is a good thing. Gets people on edge. When you get people on edge, especially competitors, right? These guys are competitors at a high level. So we're not saying these guys are going to break down. You know what I'm saying? They should respond to tension and big moments. And like, that's what you do when you're a high level athlete like that. So there's that whole thing, but if that's your way that you make the move, right? Because it's like, well, now we want to do something else. I mean, he's showing right now that the players do like him. We understand that. At least we think they do, right? It seems that way. It's kind of hard. Like, they're very rarely do they not. Very rarely do your players come out and be like, well, I can't stand that guy. Or they're arguing with him. Like that happens occasionally, but like, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
If you remember back to like Clint Hurdle, like he was great for so long and he had a lot of those like motivational things that he did. And you had to imagine at some point that he's going to be like, yeah, we hear this every year. And so it's not that what Clint Hurdle's doing is wrong, right? It just kind of worked its course and it didn't have the same effect on that core who maybe are like, yeah, I mean, he did this. He's been doing this now for 8 years and, it just doesn't have the same impact on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a guy who likes to say, you hire a manager, you stick with him. You stick with him. The players are going to win and lose games. Your manager has to be like, I think if you're going through the hiring process, you're thinking 5 to 10 years. Every single time you're thinking 5 to 10 years, right? Well, this is 5. You know what I mean? This is the 5th. So if you haven't gotten it done, now to be fair, 4 of those years he wasn't supposed to get it done. This year he was supposed to get it done, Jake. They were supposed to be competitive, and they started off slow. They had their slow months. They've improved every single month until now, which feels like a crash and burn. And I think maybe I'm starting to lean. Maybe I'm starting to talk myself into now's not the time, but let's see how he finishes. You know what I mean? If he can come out of this and get back to 500, then we'll have conversations. Like if you're under 500 at the end of this year, you've made the decision for me. You're gone.
Yeah.
We're moving on. We're doing a job search. If you can get back to 500, we'll have a conversation because you were able, like, what did you learn? Like, those are the kind of questions I need to know. What did you learn to get out of that? And can you apply that to a full season?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like, there are guys on this team right now, and there's a lot of, like, we're getting it here. Dude, York looks good, right? We're seeing a lot of good things from Nick York, and Bucko Mike is putting some stats out here for him and for Cook, and like those guys are doing well. Henry Davis is doing well. If you don't believe right now, and I'm not talking about us because they're the ones having the conversations. If you don't believe that those guys are better options than what currently sits on that roster right now, then I am actually one who will say, no, don't. I understand that this guy, and I'm using X because I don't know who they're looking at. I'm not saying I think they're not. I think they are better than some guys that we have right now. But if they don't give you a better chance to win today's game, leave them down. I need to win today's game.
Yeah.
And I need to win tomorrow's game tomorrow. And the day after that, I'm going to say, I need to win today's game. And the idea is I want the best roster. And I understand that's not looking forward to 2025 either. But what it does for guys like Brian Reynolds, for guys like Nick Gonzalez if he comes back, for guys like, I'm trying to think of like Key Bryant, obviously. I would venture to say Joey Bart's going to stick around, right? So let's say Joey Bart, let's say some of these pitchers that are going to be there next year. If you bring up a bunch of young guys to, quote unquote, see what they have, and you're kind of in that role where it's like individual, I didn't bring up O'Neal Cruz, individual performances instead of team wins, like you have to figure out how to win games right now. And this team is showing that even if you get good players, which like we said, whether they're having good years or not, but like Brian Reynolds, you know what I mean? I think O'Neal Cruz is still a good player. Defensive side, we're talking, whatever. They have to learn how to win. They have to know what it takes to win games. And I think there's still a way that you can figure that out this year. It's not going to get you back to the postseason, but if you can find a way to get back to 500 and you can learn something and you can see who was a player in that, who was a guy who made an impact towards that goal, those are the guys you're keeping around. You know what I'm saying? And those are the guys you want going forward. And I just think I want to see something more from Jack Sawinski, but I don't think Jack Sawinski is going to help me win today. I'd rather have X there. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever. So, that's one of those things that for me, I want to see things like that. I want to see a way that you can say we're growing. I think everybody's done with the poll here, and it's pretty. It's 40% for now and 40% for the end of the season. And we did get looks like maybe one vote. I'm going to work on this and see if there's maybe a way I can do something that's not percentages, but maybe actually number of votes. Also, I do want to throw in there. Watch this. You could have voted a bunch of times. and rigged it just to say that that's possible. Anyway, it looks like everybody's willing to be patient. At least those who are in the chat tonight are willing to be a little bit patient. Where are you at with this? Are you patient, or are you saying hey, it's time to make a change and let's let Donnie Kelly run this thing for the rest of the season and show? Is that a way to is that an accountability move to say, all right, now understand that your job's not safe. You better play well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning towards the, October as well. I don't know. I do like Donnie Kelly too. And I would love to see what he would do at the helm in a way. And in another way, I'm just I don't like canning managers in the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I know this isn't the middle of the season at this point, but I don't know. I think coaching changes unless it's brutally bad, like the White Sox. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
This isn't brutally bad. It feels brutally bad.
Yeah. Like
Because we
you
had
said,
hope.
if this was May, if it was a 10-game run in May, you'd be like, you got to bounce back from this.
Yeah. So, I mean,
That becomes what do the White Sox get to?
October.
Almost 20 games, right? Or they did get to 20.
It got to 20.
So yeah, that's
21.
we're out, man. We're fired.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Kudos to Grady Sizemore for getting his first W as a manager.
I forgot that's who they went with. I forgot. Okay, so how do you feel about I guess I kind of already, my notes say now let's talk about where we're going from here. And I've already kind of said 500, right? If you can get back to 500, I think that you're you've salvaged a little bit of this, and you've at least given yourself an ability to have a conversation. You can't do that if you're not given the end of the year.
Right.
Also, there's no winning canning somebody now. They're just going to lose.
Yeah.
They're just going to straight up, like, it's not going to spark anything. And if it does, will it spark anything sustainable? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like didn't they fire Hurdle with like one game left?
Yeah. Something like that.
It's like, what was the point?
Right. Just wait. I don't know. I forget what I was going to say. Lost my train of thought, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. It's getting to be that time. A little late night bucking here, and we've hit our hour, so we can wrap it up a little bit. Yeah. So your verdict is end of the season. Then you think that Shelton, his job, he's on the hot seat, 100%.
Yes.
100% he's on the hot seat. Like I said, this alone right here, had he finished out the year and fallen short of the wild card, I would say, listen, this team's just got to get better. We've had so many players that are good players that haven't played well this year. There's a clear reason why we haven't been able to win 83 games this year, although it looked like there was a chance we could have before this. So even then, what's wild to me is, like, when I looked at this team at the beginning of the year, I legitimately thought 78 wins. And I thought, they give me a swing that if something like this happens, like a 10-game losing streak, then they might not get there. But if they just play better baseball, or if the pitching's better than I thought, I could see them getting into the 80s and being above 500. And then I'm sitting here looking at, they actually can get back to 78. And I won't be happy, like, because of where you were. It should have been better.
Yeah.
Jim says they told Hurdle it would be his last game, and he said, nope, we aren't doing that. And he quit. Is that real? Wow. So yeah, it's, I think the best thing that can come out of it is if you make a change of the manager, you're likely making a change across the board. So if Shelton goes, Haynes goes.
Right.
Which is, the first thing that everybody was pining for this year. And maybe still is, like, if Shelton stays, there's no way Haynes survives.
No way.
Even though this stretch, they've scored over 4 runs a game.
Right.
But
that's just wild.
But it doesn't. But here's the thing, Jake. They're still bad with runners in scoring position. They're still striking out a ton. What was the strikeout numbers the last 2 games here? Like, I didn't even open up box scores here because I was like, we ain't doing that tonight. But, like, it was like over 20 some strikeouts in the past 2 days. And, like, I think there was like 14 strikeouts on Wednesday, something like that. If somebody's got that in the chat, of course, we're wrapping it up here. But, there's a lot of things that go into, like, it's not just like, oh, yeah, we've scored. We've got some crooked numbers up there. You can't rely on that. When you rely on those crooked number innings, you end up with those 6-0 losses. You know what I'm saying? Or the 8-2. Like, because you can't, like, you just have to cash in. They don't have the ability to chip away. Oh, leadoff double? That guy never scores. Half the time doesn't even make it to third base. It's just not there. 29 strikeouts
Jeez. Did you see that it was Snell versus Sale game?
I didn't see the game. I didn't watch it.
I mean, I didn't watch the game, but did you see that they struck out, the two teams combined for 33 strikeouts or something like that?
Wild.
Insane.
Wild. 15 and 14 strikeouts in those last two games. Just, I mean, like, so that even saying like, well, yeah, in this stretch we've scored over 4 runs and the pitching's let us down, but at the same time it's like, yeah, but every day I look at that runners in scoring position line and it's a 0 or a 1. It's not enough for me. Like, if Shelton doesn't go, there has to at least be a change on the offensive side.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Off day had 12 Ks today.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit true there. So,
Dang it, Bobby.
all right. Hey, it's we're about an hour from Friday. So let's get out of here. I'm having fun.
All right, man.
What do you got? Nothing to finish it off here? Hey, welcome back to the show. You're back for how many shows?
2
Two more
on Sunday.
Yeah, and then
I'm flying out on Monday to go to the West Coast.
Oh yeah, you've got a good trip there.
Get to be fans of the home team both times.
There you go.
Because the Giants play the White Sox, so don't care about the White Sox. And I get to go watch, the Brew Crew play in Oakland.
Can't root for them.
Hopefully Oakland can just, be Oakland after post All-Star break and be good.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks again. If you're on the live chat here, please hit the subscribe button. Let's get that number up. Hit the like button so that this thing gets shown to other people. For the rest of you, thanks for listening. A lot of things you could be doing right now than listening to podcasts about these Pirates, but it's still good. Appreciate it, guys. Let's go Bucks.
Let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks.